Oh, hang on.
Right, welcome to Tony at 12. I'm Tony LeBlanc, and today I'm in conversation with Isabel Picornell, one of the organizer of the Alderney Literary Festival. And we're going to discuss the innovations being used to keep the show on the road during COVID. Isabel, good to see you.
And you, Tony.
2020 and 2021 years to try and forget as far as actual attendance at festivals concerned.
Oh, yes, 2020 was a nightmare. We had to unravel everything 1 week before the festival was due, and it took months. It was more complicated unraveling the festival than putting it together. And then sadly, 2021, yeah, we soon realized that wasn't going to work either. It was very sad. But, I'd like to say that all the authors were really very supportive and totally understood. And they've been moving from 1 year to the other. And now they're coming back going, are we going to be in Alderney in 2022?
Well, that's positive news, isn't it? But knowing you of old, that wasn't going to stop you, was it? The innovations came in, and I suppose the first bit that we had was the Rebecca weekend. So can we talk about that a little bit?
Yes, it's something we've wanted to do. Well, the Alderney Literary Trust is more than just the festival. What we would like to do is put on more courses that engage people and encourage them to write or enthuse them to write. And the Rebecca weekend was basically, a writing day, a day of writing and appreciating suspense fiction.
An element of, I was, element of deconstruction and then reconstruction.
Yes, it's basically what made the Daphne du Maurier's novel Rebecca, which apparently, and I hadn't appreciated it before, it's one of the great Gothic novels of all time. You wouldn't think of Rebecca as being Gothic. But anyway, so what was it about the way it was written that created this weird world of suspense and ghostly feelings and insights and uncertainty? And most people tend to mix up thrillers and suspense, but they're very different writing genres. And so they do have different approaches and linguistic styles.
I guess you've got to say Mrs. Danvers was a bit Gothic, wasn't she?
Oh, definitely. Yes, especially in the film. The original Laurence Olivier and escapes me who played the second Mrs. De Winter. And as you appreciate, we never know her first name.
No. It's very clever writing.
Yeah, Rebecca was the first Mrs. De Winter, who is continuously throughout the book, although she's dead. So it's very clever writing.
Yes, it's a ghost that just won't die all the way through, perpetuated by Mrs. Danvers. Yeah, so that was good. That was a good start. And it started off with the film on the Friday night, wasn't it? And then Saturday, getting into the nitty gritty. But it was a good weekend. And it was during a period of grotty weather, I seem to recall. And it went very well from that point of view.
Keeping Gothic part two.
And we got to talk Gothic a bit later on as well. So who came up with the concept of the Lit Bite Salon and the webinars?
Well, I did, actually.
Okay, take credit.
The theory behind it, well, it started with the decision whether or not we were going to go ahead with the literary festival in March and whether we moved online. And the trustees made the decision not to go ahead because really the whole fun and thrill of the festival is face-to-face.
Yeah.
It is meeting people. It is authors being here and having a good time. And we could not have captured that online on Zoom. It was then the idea then started, well, how do we keep the idea of the festival alive, of authors? And it just, with all the other Zoom events happening online, we thought, well, I thought, how about a monthly 1-hour chat by some of the authors who've been here before, to talk about the work that they would have talked about had they been here in 2020 and 2021. So this is it. The people we have coming are talking about the books that they would have talked about had the literary festivals gone ahead. And on Zoom, an hour and 15 minutes, that's just about long enough to hold the attention of viewers and give them a lit bite, a light bite. That's a theory behind the play on words. So that was the idea. And so we got the LitFest chairman, Anthony Riches, to front these interviews. So they're all in conversations with guest authors talking about their books.
Now, the good thing about it, of course, is that the viewers can actually participate by asking questions using the chat facility. So that's got to be a plus, hasn't it?
Yes. So there is a chat function where people can ask questions as the Zoom goes along. And they also have the facility to ask questions at the end. And then the interviewer, Tony Riches, then picks up these questions and asks the author. So it is essentially like a normal literary festival chat, except it's all online. You can have your cocktails to Zoom by. So
you can, yeah.
I send out, I always include the recipe for a particular cocktail that has a connection to whatever is being talked about.
Let's have a look at the recent appearances so far. Abba Mukherjee, Out of Time, the protagonist and the point of historical fiction. That was interesting.
Yes, and he, we have to take this as a compliment to the Lit Bite audience. He said, having been to Alderney, having appreciated the sort of intellectual audience you have, I knew I had to up my talk because I couldn't give a normal talk. And what was interesting about his talk was talking about, in historical fiction, what do you do with the protagonist, the lead character? You can never, well, his argument is you can never make the protagonist a person of his time, because the opinions and the ethics and morals and behavior of people of their time, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 500 years ago, would not resonate with people today. And it would actually make people today feel alienated or distant from the protagonist. So his argument is you always have to put a little bit of the 21st century into the 15th century, the 17th century, even the 19th century character, which is an aspect I'd never considered before. So yeah, very interesting. And he's so funny all the time. So it was very entertaining.
Then we went on to have Michael Woods and the story of China. That was very interesting, wasn't it? Because, it sort of captured a whole huge period of time, effectively.
Well, Michael Wood, he was one of the persons responsible for getting me into archaeology in the first place, because I read his very first book, In Search of the Dark Ages, which incidentally he is updating and republishing later this year. And to be able to grab him, be able to have him, actually, my thanks to Helen Patterson for being responsible to introduce me to Michael Wood, and therefore, having him on a Lit Bite session. But his book on China, yes, huge, 5,000 years of history into one volume, immense. But what he had was a very interesting perspective of how the Chinese view history, which is very different to ours, because we tend to look at history being in the past.
Yeah.
Whereas the Chinese have this perspective that the past is always in the present, and which explains a lot of the way China's thinking and, well, actually outlook in the present time.
Now, this one was actually recorded and appears on the website, doesn't it?
That's right. You can access the recording either through going through our website. So you go to past events and past lit bites, and there is a link to the video, or you can go to Vimeo, because it's in Vimeo. Just put in Alderney Literary Trust, and it'll bring up the videos the recordings we have on it.
Okay. The next one was this delightful one with Tish Delaney, and it was called, quote, Being Northern Irish, unquote. And that was a discussion with Rachel Abbott, with Sheila, of course, once again recorded. I really enjoyed that one.
It was, well, Tish is very funny, even in her book. But it was a very interesting perspective on her growing up as she did in the time of the Troubles in Northern Ireland, and how the people she knew informed the characters in her book. I particularly liked that bit where she basically modeled her mother in the book on a nun she knew in school. Yes. No spoilers here, but you've got to read the book. It's absolutely excellent.
Yeah. But it did seem that what some of those nuns got up to in terms of the laundries that they had, and also the education side, was dreadful.
Well, I went to a convent school as well, so I can identify with a lot of them. They weren't all dreadful, but I suppose there's just a different outlook on life. I remember the Mother Superior coming to me and telling me I'd make a really good nun, which I figured for the life of me, I wasn't anything like it. I was never good enough in school, and I never got the medal of St. Agnes that all my good colleagues had. So yeah, she obviously saw something in me I didn't.
It's gonna, I'm gonna think of you in future as the potential nun.
Mother Superior. I would have made it.
Mother Superior. Yeah, you'd have gone in at the top. There's no doubt about that. But once again, the Tish Delaney interview was recorded. That's available for viewing
on the website. And
and I can really recommend that one. I really enjoyed it. It was very good. And 27th of May, which is day after tomorrow, you've got another one lined up. Andrew Lowney, talking about the Mountbattens, their lives and loves. And I've just started reading the Ziegler version of the biography of Mountbatten, and quite interesting stuff.
Well, and very topical with what's happening at the moment. People will have read in the newspapers about Southampton University using public money to buy the Dickie Mountbatten's biography. Diaries, which the government has ordered be locked up and is not available for research. So you have a strange situation where the university buys the diaries using public money for the purpose of public research, and then they're ordered to not make the diaries available. So why? And Andrew Lowney, who we're having on Thursday, will talk about this in his books, because obviously the diaries would make be good information into additional information into the Mountbatten's book he has published. And incidentally, the Mountbattens, this book, Their Lives and Loves, is the first dual biography of Dickie and Edwina Mountbatten. So you're looking at both of them in the context of each other, rather than just isolated figures.
Yeah. Christine tells me it was a very open marriage.
Yes, it was, but also apparently, according to Andrew Lowney, a very loving one. So they seem to, I read the book, and according to the book, it was Edwina who first, began, well, moved, began her affairs.
Went off piste.
Went off piste, that's a very delicate way of putting it, which really upset her husband. But then I suppose if you love each other, what's the options? You accommodate each other. But it's more than that. It's all about what Andrew Lowney wants to talk about is the myth, is the reality behind the myth. You have this myth created around the Mountbattens, this very golden couple, achieving great things together. But actually, this was manufactured. And it seems that part of the reason for withholding the diaries may be so that this myth is not shattered in Mountbatten's own words. I don't know. It'll be interesting. It's I look forward to the conversation.
Because you've got two aspects here, haven't you? You've got the royal aspect and also the military aspect in terms of perhaps the government wanting to shut things down a little bit. But have they put a time limit on it? Because normally it's, what, 70 years, 100 years for something like that?
Not that I'm aware of. It's, no, there's nothing so far that I've seen, which is unusual. You would think, well, it's also unusual because the government doesn't own it. It's in theoretically public archives. So the time limits, as far as I understand, only applies to government-controlled archives.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting, whatever pressure is being applied in Southampton University to do this. But if I said it is on Thursday, it's from 8 to 9:15 p.m. It's a free meeting. Anybody can attend, but you have to register via Eventbrite.
Yeah.
So if you do want to attend it, first you need to download Zoom, which is very, very simple.
Even I can do that.
Yes. And then you can register if you go to our website, alderney.literary.trust.com, and look in the events page. It's the first event, and there's a button to register. So do please join us, and you'll be able to ask Andrew Lowney whatever questions you want afterwards.
Now, Anthony Riches is going to host it again as chair. What's the situation regarding Anthony, bearing in mind the missing years?
Yes, it's interesting because actually Tony, Andrew Lowney, and I were just in a Zoom meeting earlier today. And Tony was saying that this year would have been his last year as chairman.
Yeah.
But no, we carry him forward. He's going to have to suffer coming to Alderney for another 2 years on top of this. And he's looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. Yeah. Just sort of
he loves it. He loves it here.
Yeah, I threw that in as a little aside. Now, what else have we got lined up for Lit Bites for 2021?
We're still, I'm still organizing it with authors, so I've got nothing concrete at the moment, but as soon as we will have somebody for June and July and August and September. So as soon as I have it organized, we will put it on Facebook, on Twitter, on our website. The problem now, Tony, is when we were all where the UK was in lockdown, it was great because nobody was going anywhere.
Yeah.
So you tie people down and say, next month you're doing this. Now the UK is coming out of lockdown. And obviously all the authors are trying to get back into the swing of things that they do best, sell books, attend live events. It's a bit more difficult to pin people down. At the moment.
And essentially you want to keep it as a live situation rather than a pre-recorded one, don't you? So
Oh
that you
yes,
get the
absolutely.
yeah.
Because you never know what happens. That's the fun of it, you know. You sort of
Yeah. That's why I don't do it. Apart from the additional lit bites for this year, you've got another course lined up of a Gothic nature.
Yes, I've just about confirmed the last speakers. This is going to be on the 16th of October. It's a Saturday. It's a one-day event. And the title is literally Gothic. And, you know, it's pretty near to Halloween. But it is going to be about Gothic literature. We have four authors who have written in the Gothic genre, and I'll tell you about them. We also have a lecturer coming over who lectures on Gothic literature in the UK, who will be opening the event to talk about what exactly is Gothic literature. As people seem to think it's all about zombies and vampires and things like that. But that wasn't the original definition of Gothic. The original definition started in the 17th century, and it had to do with death and renewal. You know, plague. Well, talk about plague. Yes, I suppose that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it came out of the medieval Gothic architecture. You know, all these spires and things, which later on took on a different meaning. But the idea behind the festival is to talk about modern Gothic. So how in the 21st century, Gothic literature has evolved. And we have two authors who've been here before, Karen Maitland, who writes wonderfully spooky medieval thrillers. I'd call them thrillers, but in the Gothic style.
Yeah.
Anna Mazzola, who was our debut author back in 2017 with The Unseeing, but she's now coming back with a book called The Storyteller, set in really Gothic Isle of Skye. And you know, it all encompasses superstitions and of course, it's all got to be, the weather's got to be dreadful. You know, a little island like Alderney.
Yeah. Does it run on into? Sorry.
We also have the wonderful Rosie Garland. I mean, who's a Goth herself, but she has brilliant Gothic stories. You know, The Palace of Curiosities was her first book, and the current book is The Night Brother, which is, oh, talk about changelings. Very, very well written. The language is beautiful. And I'm very proud to announce we have the Costa winner, Andrew Michael Hurley, coming to speak of his latest book, Starveacre. He won the Costa back in 2007 for ldeny, which is all set in bleak Norwich, Norwich landscapes. It's always quite flat and bleak out there. Apologies to anybody living in Norwich. But that's, and yeah, he was so enthusiastic to come to Alderney. So pleased with that. And the lecturer we have coming is called Javier Aldana Reyes, who happens to be Catalan. So a compadre of mine, but you know, has been teaching in Manchester for many years, and he teaches on Gothic literature and film, so Gothic arts, basically to tell us what to expect when we see Gothic literature. So it will be fun. It'll be very different, which is what I want it to be. And for those of you who think you don't like Gothic literature, you know, I think you'll have a very different interpretation of what Gothic is after this day.
So it's almost going to be a mini festival then, isn't it?
It is, but I don't want to call it the
no
festival.
Yeah.
It's a one day. It's much less formal. I'll publicize it once we get the, you know, at the moment we're looking for a venue and seeing what format it's going to take and all that sort of thing. But yeah, I guess in the end it will be a festival, won't it?
Well, mini one.
A mini one.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Not to take away credit for 2022, and that's my next question. How's that coming along?
Well, we've got most of the authors from 2020 and 2021 wanting to come back.
So that's all right.
So that's right. The trouble is many of them have new books.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I want to be, you know, as people know, we invite authors for their books, not for the authors. So we read, my reviewers read all the books first. And it's the books rather than the reviewers who come. So, yeah, some will be back and some won't because because the books have changed. But we'll see. I'd like it to be bigger, slightly bigger to make up for the lost years, but we'll see how it goes.
So bigger means over a slightly extended time sequence rather than a larger auditorium.
Yes. Well, we don't have a larger.
That's right. Yeah.
It will be over 3 days instead of
2.5.
2.5.
Yeah.
It's yes. It's also the problem is that when we do get a lot of people coming from Guernsey, they're able to come because they can come on the Friday morning.
Yeah.
If we do it, make it all a Friday, people will have to come from the Thursday, and I suppose logistics for the audience make it a bit more difficult. We'll see. And especially if people can travel freely, because a lot of our audience comes from the UK.
Yeah.
So, we'd like them to have them back.
But they would have to come the night before in any case, wouldn't they?
Yes. Yes, that's true. Most of them would. All of the Guernsey audience would. I don't know. You get a lot of people coming in first thing in the morning on the Friday. It was from the Southampton. But I'm sure it will work it out.
Yeah, I'm sure you will, because it's the never say die attitude, Isabel, which you've done very well on, I think.
Thank you.
Okay.
We have a fantastic supporting.
Yes, I know. Yeah, but you are front of house.
Yeah, well, standing in the background, but in the front. Yes.
Okay, let's just remind people then. 27th of May, Thursday. Andrew Lowney regarding the Mountbattens, their lives and loves, and just tell the people again how to actually access the event.
You can access it via Facebook or Twitter.
Yeah.
Just looking for Alderney Literary Trust, or you can go to our website, which is all the W's, alderneyliterarytrust.com, and go to events. And you'll see the register button, and it'll take you to the Eventbrite page where you have to put in your name and your email address. You get sent a link, and you use that link to come in on the day. We let people in at about 10 minutes to 8.
Yeah, and it works very well, and it is highly recommended.
Well, I hope so. We think it does. We think it's fun.
Isabel, as ever, great to talk to you. Thank you very much for your time. And we'll no doubt have another chat in a few months' time with an update as to how things are going. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much for having me on, Tony.
Pleasure.